Joining us now, former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu, who served as White House Chief of Staff under the first President Bush. And Governor, I had the opportunity to work for two chiefs of staff that I revered, Andy Card and Josh Bolten, in the 43 administration. And I was wondering, from your perspective, what did you think of General Kelly's first day? And what do you think that meant today when he said, I'm going to make my first decision to remove Anthony Scaramucci from his position?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the president deserves credit for knowing that he needs somebody like General Kelly there. And I think General Kelly has enough confidence from the president that he's going to be able to do that. You know, I'm a great believer in a strong chief of staff serves the president well if they mesh together and have a common, and the chief of staff understands what the president's agenda is. So I think you're going to see a very different White House under the general.
I always thought that it would be great to have a chief of staff, because then you can say, well, don't bother me with this, bother the chief of staff. I don't want to have to worry about it. But what does it mean then from a staff perspective? Because having been a staffer and sort of leadership from a follower's perspective, when you have somebody that you can think will be an honest broker for your views, I assume that people thought that they should go around Reince Priebus as a chief of staff because they thought if they got to the president that they would be able to win whatever their position was. And I just wonder, from your perspective, about being that honest broker for everybody, not just the staff, but also the cabinet.
Well, I think with 45 years of public service experience, you're looking at someone that understands that. I just hope the general understands he's got to make himself a little bit more accessible to his staff within the White House than might have been the norm, if you will, within the military. I think the more he's accessible to the staff, the more he hears their concerns, the more he can pass those concerns on to the president, get a decision, and solve the problems as quickly as possible.
They have a couple of big issues coming up. One, we're going to talk to Senator Graham in a moment about the health care bill and what the president wants them to be able to do. So there's some big domestic items on the plate, including tax reform, a big undertaking that hasn't been done in many years. So somebody like General Kelly, who has a four-star Marine, who's just an amazing public servant, what would you advise him when he's looking at this big domestic policy issue and how to sort of shepherd that through the process to success for the president?
Well, I think he's got to sit down with the legislative liaisons that are in the White House and sit down and put a strategy together. Identify which one of the senators need to be worked on, which one of the House members need to be worked on, making sure that they're conveying the president's preferences and the president's dislikes in terms of what should be in the legislation. He's got to start making sure that the communication between the White House and not only the leadership over the legislative side, but the committee and subcommittee and, frankly, the rank and file Republicans. The more you talk to the individuals over there that you're hoping will vote for you, the more likely you are to get their support.
What was it like when, members of Congress would call you up and sort of maybe make a demand or a request, and that you were juggling all of those things for the president? What would you advise him, because those calls are going to start coming in?
Well, I think you've got to find out from the president what goodies he's willing to give away and what goodies he's not willing to give away, and what perks he's willing to provide, and what kind of meetings he's willing to take with the members of Congress. And I think you establish with the president a process, a schedule, and a program. And a chief of staff and a president have to work hand in glove. The chief of staff certainly has to understand he's got a constituency of one, but the president has to understand that he's got to give quick feedback to the chief of staff on those kinds of issues so that he can be well served.
Well, I know that certainly the chiefs of staff and the presidents often spend up to 16 hours a day together, so hopefully they will get along well. Thank you so much. Your input was invaluable,
Thanks, Dana.
Governor.
Take care.